For many centuries, the galaxy believed humanity was strange. Humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy. They did not rule the largest empire. They did not possess the oldest or most advanced alien technology. Many civilizations had existed for tens of thousands of years before humans ever left their small blue planet called Earth. Compared to them, humanity was young, still learning, still growing, still divided by culture, politics, and ideas. Yet there was one thing about humans that confused the rest of the galaxy: restraint. Most powerful civilizations believed strength should always be used. If you had stronger weapons, you used them. If you had a bigger fleet, you conquered more territory. That was the natural way of the galaxy. But humans were different. Whenever humanity invented a new weapon, they immediately created strict limits for it. Whenever they built powerful fleets, they hid most of them. Whenever they discovered dangerous technologies, they locked them away instead of using them. This behavior made many alien leaders suspicious. Why would a species create powerful tools and then refuse to use them? The question was asked many times inside the massive chambers of the Galactic Council. Hundreds of alien representatives would sit together while human diplomats calmly answered their questions. One alien senator once asked directly, "If humans are capable of building such powerful weapons, why do you refuse to use them?" The human diplomat answered in a calm voice, "Because some power should never be used unless there is no other choice." Many aliens laughed at that answer. To them, power existed for one purpose: control, victory, expansion. They believed humanity was pretending to be moral because they were secretly weak. Human warnings continued for centuries. Not angry warnings, not threats, just quiet statements, repeated again and again. If humanity ever removes its restraints, the galaxy will change forever. Most alien civilizations ignored those words. They believed humans were exaggerating their importance. The galaxy had seen countless civilizations rise and fall. Humans would be no different. Eventually, one powerful alliance decided to prove this idea: the Orvak Dominion. The Dominion controlled hundreds of star systems and one of the largest military forces in the known galaxy. Their leaders believed humanity was hiding weakness behind diplomacy, so they began testing human patience. At first, the Dominion only applied pressure. They blocked trade routes used by human merchants. Cargo ships were delayed or turned away. Then Dominion patrol fleets began moving closer to human territory. Some small human colonies reported Dominion warships watching them from nearby space. Still, humanity did not respond with aggression. Human diplomats continued sending the same message: "Please stop these actions. You do not understand what you are forcing." The Dominion leaders laughed when they received those messages. To them, the warnings sounded like fear. Weeks later, the Dominion pushed further. They seized several small asteroid colonies controlled by human mining companies. Human workers were forced to leave. Still, humanity remained calm. Again, the same warning was sent: "Please stop. You do not understand what you are forcing." The Dominion saw this as proof that humans were afraid of war, so they made one final decision: they would strike directly. A Dominion battle fleet entered the edge of human territory and attacked a remote research station orbiting a distant star. The station was small and lightly defended. It had never been designed for war. Dominion weapons destroyed it within minutes. Thousands of scientists died in the explosion. When the Dominion fleet returned home, their leaders celebrated. They believed they had proven humanity was weak. They waited for a response: angry messages, emergency war fleets, threats of revenge. But none of that happened. Instead, human space went silent. No communication came from Earth. No diplomatic protest reached the Galactic Council. No human fleets appeared near Dominion borders. It was as if humanity had simply disappeared. At first, the galaxy believed humans were afraid. But then strange reports began arriving. Across dozens of star systems, alien sensors detected something unusual. Human fleets were vanishing. Shipyards once filled with warships were empty. Military bases stood quiet. Trade routes that had been busy for decades suddenly carried no human ships at all. It was as if humanity had pulled every ship back into its own territory. Then the deep space sensors began detecting something else: massive energy readings. Far inside human space, power levels far beyond anything normally used by human fleets. Ancient machines activating, weapons systems coming online, huge objects moving through space. The Dominion believed humanity was finally preparing for war, but they were wrong. Humanity was not preparing for war. Humanity was removing its restraints, and by the time the galaxy finally understood what that meant, it would already be far too late. Deep inside human space, far beyond the borders shown on any galactic map, enormous structures began to awaken. These places had never been seen by alien eyes. They were hidden carefully. Some were buried inside hollow asteroids. Some were built under the frozen oceans of distant moons. Others floated quietly in dark regions of space where almost no ships ever traveled. For hundreds of years, these places had remained silent, waiting, watching. Now they were waking up. Massive doors that had been closed for centuries slowly began to open. Ancient shipyards powered on again. Cold machines started moving. Artificial suns lit up deep inside giant construction chambers. And from those hidden shipyards, enormous human warships began to emerge. These ships were not like the normal human fleets the galaxy had seen before. They were much larger, much heavier, and far more powerful. Some of them were longer than entire cities. Others carried weapons that had never appeared in any galactic database. Even their engines looked strange. Instead of bright blue drives used by most species, these ships carried dark energy cores surrounded by glowing rings of gravity fields. These were not ordinary fleets. These were the fleets humanity had never shown to anyone. Across human space, hundreds of these hidden shipyards opened at the same time. Thousands of warships began leaving their docks. Fleet commanders across Earth received the same message. A single order from the United Earth Defense Authority. Restraints protocol ending. Every human officer understood what that meant. For generations, humanity had built weapons that were never meant to be used. Weapons created only for the worst possible situations. Situations where survival was more important than rules. And now those rules were being removed. The Dominion still believed humanity was only preparing for revenge. Their leaders gathered inside their War Council chamber and studied the sensor reports. One admiral laughed as he looked at the data. Humans are finally reacting. Good. Now we will show them what real power looks like. But the younger officers in the room were not laughing. Some of them noticed strange details in the reports. Human fleets were not moving toward Dominion territory. They were moving in many different directions. Some fleets were traveling toward the outer edges of the galaxy. Others were heading into deep, unexplored regions of space. It did not look like a normal war deployment. Something about it felt wrong. One intelligence officer studied the movement patterns carefully. Then he spoke quietly. "These fleets are not preparing to attack us." The admiral frowned. "Then where are they going?" The officer zoomed out the star map. The room slowly became silent. The human fleets were not forming attack formations. They were moving toward places marked on ancient galactic maps as forbidden zones, regions of space where almost no civilization traveled, areas filled with strange gravitational storms, dark nebula clouds, and old unexplained signals. For thousands of years, those places had been avoided. Some old alien legends claimed entire civilizations had once disappeared there. The Dominion admiral shook his head. "This is meaningless. Humans are just moving ships around." But at that same moment, another report arrived. A Dominion scout ship near one of those forbidden zones had detected something impossible. The scout sensors had captured an image. The image appeared on the large holographic display in the council chamber. The officers leaned forward. At first, they thought the sensor data was broken, because what they saw was far too large to be a normal ship. Floating in deep space was a massive structure. It was shaped like a giant metal ring surrounding a dark center. The ring itself was thousands of kilometers wide. Strange human symbols covered its outer surface, and inside the center of the ring, something was moving, something enormous. The scout captain's voice came through the recording. "We believe this is a human structure that has been hidden here for centuries." Another officer asked the obvious question. "What is it?" The scout captain answered slowly. "We don't know, but it appears to be some kind of containment system." Then the recording cut to static. Moments later, the scout ship's signal vanished completely. Inside the Dominion War Council, the room became very quiet, because suddenly the human warnings from the past no longer sounded like empty words. For centuries, humanity had said the same thing. If we ever remove our restraints, the galaxy will change forever. Now the Dominion leaders were beginning to understand something terrifying. Humanity had not been hiding weakness. Humanity had been hiding something far more dangerous, and whatever those ancient containment structures were guarding, they were starting to open. Far across the galaxy, strange reports began arriving at the Galactic Council. At first, the messages seemed confusing. Human fleets were appearing near ancient regions of space that had been ignored for thousands of years. These areas were known on old star charts as dark sectors, places where strange signals had once been detected, places where exploration ships had vanished long ago, places that most civilizations quietly avoided. No one had ever fully explained why those regions were dangerous. Most empires simply marked them as restricted space and stayed away. But now human fleets were traveling directly into those areas. Thousands of ships, not small patrol vessels, massive warships. Ships designed for battles that had never happened in recorded galactic history. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, alien leaders gathered to discuss the situation. The room was filled with tension. Many of them had laughed at humanity for centuries. Now their laughter had disappeared. A tall insect-like ambassador spoke first. "Why are human fleets moving toward dead space zones?" Another alien leader answered nervously. "Perhaps they are building new military bases." But a historian from an ancient species slowly shook his head. "No, that is not what this looks like." The chamber became quiet as he stepped forward. His species had studied the galaxy longer than most civilizations had existed. They kept records older than many star systems. The historian activated a holographic display showing old maps of the galaxy. "These regions were not always empty," he said. "Thousands of years ago, several powerful civilizations had explored those areas. None of them survived. Ships vanished. Entire fleets disappeared without sending distress calls. At the time, many empires believed it was caused by natural dangers, black holes, radiation storms, unstable gravity fields. But the historian revealed something disturbing. Some old records mention another possibility. The council members leaned forward. The historian continued. "Ancient explorers reported seeing strange machines in those regions. Machines that did not belong to any known civilization. Machines that appeared to be extremely old, older than any empire that existed today. Some explorers believed they were abandoned. Others believed they were abandoned. Others believed they were watching." For centuries, these stories had been dismissed as myths, until now, because the human fleets were not only traveling to those areas, they were gathering near specific locations where the old explorers had once reported seeing those machines. A council member asked the obvious question: why would humans go there? No one answered immediately. Then a small alien intelligence officer spoke carefully. Maybe the humans already knew those machines existed. The room fell silent. The idea sounded impossible. But the more they looked at the data, the more it made sense. Human fleets were not spreading randomly. They were moving with perfect accuracy, as if they had known the exact locations of those mysterious objects for centuries. At that moment, a new transmission arrived. It came directly from Earth. The entire council chamber turned toward the holographic screen. A human admiral appeared. His face looked calm, but his voice carried a heavy seriousness. "Members of the Galactic Council," he began. "For centuries humanity has sent warnings. We asked the galaxy not to push us into removing our restraints." The Admiral paused for a moment. Unfortunately, those warnings were ignored. An angry alien representative interrupted him. "Are you threatening the galaxy?" The human admiral slowly shook his head. "No, this is not a threat. This is an explanation." The council members exchanged nervous looks. The admiral continued. "For thousands of years, humanity has been guarding certain locations in the galaxy. These locations contain ancient systems that are extremely dangerous." The insect ambassador spoke again. "You are saying humans were protecting the galaxy?" The admiral answered quietly. "Yes. For generations we built fleets and weapons not for conquest, but for containment." The chamber became completely silent. Many alien leaders suddenly remembered something. The strange human policy of restraint. The hidden fleets. The technologies humans refused to use. It had never made sense before. Now it did. The admiral continued speaking. "The machines in those dark sectors are not abandoned. They are prisons." The council members felt a chill of fear. "Prisons for what?" someone asked. The human admiral's expression became more serious. "For something that nearly destroyed the galaxy long before your civilizations existed." Another message appeared on the council screen. A deep space monitoring station had just sent an emergency report. One of the ancient containment rings had opened. Something enormous had moved inside the dark center, something that had not moved for thousands of years. The admiral looked directly at the council. "This is why humanity built restraints, because the weapons required to stop what lives out there should never be used lightly." Outside the council chamber, stars continued to shine peacefully. But deep inside the dark sectors of space, something ancient had just awakened, and humanity was preparing to face it again. The Galactic Council chamber fell into complete silence after the human admiral finished speaking. For a long moment, no one said anything. Hundreds of alien leaders stared at the holographic star map floating in the center of the room. Red warning signals were appearing across several distant regions of space. Those signals all came from the same locations. The ancient containment rings, places that most civilizations had never even heard about until a few minutes ago. Now the entire galaxy was learning the truth. Those strange regions of space were not empty, they were prisons, and something inside one of them had just awakened. A council representative from the Lithari Empire spoke first. His voice sounded nervous. "You are telling us that something powerful enough to destroy civilizations has been locked away for thousands of years, and humanity has been guarding it alone?" The human admiral nodded slowly. "Yes." Another alien leader stood up angrily. "Then why did you never tell the galaxy about this danger?" The admiral looked directly at the council chamber. "Because the galaxy was not ready to hear it." The chamber grew quiet again. The admiral continued. "Thousands of years ago, when humanity first discovered those containment systems, we believed they were abandoned machines, ancient relics left behind by a forgotten civilization. But when our scientists studied them, they discovered something terrifying." He touched a control panel. The holographic map changed. A massive image appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a gigantic metal ring floating in deep space. The ring surrounded a dark, empty center. At first glance, it looked like a giant machine, but then the image zoomed in. The council members noticed something disturbing. The metal ring was not smooth. It was covered in enormous weapons, weapons larger than entire warships. "These rings are not simple structures," the admiral explained. "They are containment systems built by a very advanced ancient species." A council historian stepped forward. "Who built them?" The admiral shook his head. "We don't know. All we know is that the species who created them is gone, completely gone." The council members exchanged uneasy looks. Then the admiral continued, "But before they disappeared, they locked something inside those rings." The holographic display changed again. This time the screen showed an old human exploration ship drifting near one of the rings. The recording was thousands of years old. Human explorers had been scanning the strange structure. Then suddenly the ship's sensors detected movement inside the ring. The explorers saw something moving inside the dark center, something enormous, something alive. The council chamber filled with whispers. The admiral paused the recording. "Our scientists later discovered that these creatures are older than most stars in the galaxy. They do not think like normal life. They do not build civilizations. They simply consume." A council member asked quietly. "Consume what?" The admiral answered in a low voice. "Everything." The holographic display zoomed out. It showed several ancient containment rings scattered across distant parts of the galaxy. "There are 12 of these structures," the admiral said. "For thousands of years, humanity has secretly guarded them. Human fleets had been stationed near those locations for centuries, watching, waiting, ready to respond if anything inside those rings ever tried to escape." The council members slowly realized the truth. Human restraint had never been about weakness. It had been about responsibility. Humanity had been protecting the galaxy from something far worse than any war. But now, one of the rings had opened, and something inside it had begun to move. At that moment, a new emergency signal arrived from deep space. The council screen flashed red. A human defense fleet near one of the containment rings had just reported contact. The transmission began playing automatically. The voice of a human fleet commander filled the chamber. "This is Defense Fleet Orion. We have visual confirmation." The camera image showed the ancient metal ring floating in space, but the dark center of the ring was no longer empty. A massive shadow was slowly moving outward. The shape was impossible to fully see. It looked like a creature made of darkness and energy. Its size was larger than entire warships. Strange waves of gravity spread around it as it moved. Human warships surrounded the ring, hundreds of them, all aiming their weapons at the emerging creature. The fleet commander continued speaking. "Containment breach confirmed. We are initiating full restraint removal." The council members looked at the human admiral in fear. "What does that mean?" someone asked. The admiral answered quietly. "It means humanity is about to use weapons we hoped we would never need." Outside the containment ring, the ancient creature continued emerging from the darkness. Human warships began activating enormous weapons that had been hidden for centuries. Stars dimmed as energy gathered across the battlefield. For the first time in thousands of years, humanity was fighting without restraints. Across the Galactic Council chamber, no one spoke. Every alien leader watched the emergency transmission from the human defense fleet. The image showed hundreds of human warships forming a massive circle around the ancient containment ring. Beyond them, the enormous shadow continued moving out of the dark center. At first it looked like a cloud of black energy, but as the creature moved closer to open space, its shape slowly became clearer. Long tendrils of dark matter stretched outward like enormous arms. Each movement distorted gravity around it. Stars behind the creature bent and twisted as if space itself was being pulled toward it. One council member whispered in fear, "That thing is alive." The human admiral nodded slowly. Yes. He watched the transmission carefully. For thousands of years, we believed these creatures were sleeping, but they are not truly asleep. They are contained. On the screen, human warships began changing formation. Large capital ships moved to the front of the fleet. These ships were far larger than anything the galaxy had seen before. Their surfaces were covered with massive ring-shaped structures, glowing with deep red light. Alien observers quickly realized those rings were not engines, they were weapons. The fleet commander's voice continued through the transmission. All ships prepare gravity suppression fields. Immediately, dozens of human ships activated powerful emitters. Invisible waves spread through space around the creature. Gravity in the area began to stabilize. The creature's tendrils suddenly slowed. It was as if something invisible was holding it in place. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, an alien scientist gasped. "They are controlling gravity itself." The human admiral spoke calmly. "These weapons were designed only for this purpose. For centuries, we refused to use them anywhere else." On the screen, the creature reacted to the gravity field. Its massive body twisted violently. Dark energy surged outward from its surface. Several smaller human ships were thrown backward by the shockwave, but the main fleet held its position. The fleet commander spoke again. "Containment Stage 1 successful. Preparing stellar lance batteries." Several enormous human warships slowly rotated toward the creature. Panels on their hulls opened. From inside those openings, huge weapon systems extended outward. Each one looked like a giant metal spear surrounded by glowing energy rings. A council member asked nervously, "What are those weapons?" The admiral answered quietly, "Stellar lances. They are designed to release concentrated energy equal to a small star." The council chamber fell silent again. Such weapons had never existed in galactic warfare. The fleet commander gave the next order. "All lance batteries, fire." Across the battlefield, the human ships unleashed their attack. Blinding beams of pure white energy shot across space. The beams struck the creature at the same moment. The impact filled the entire area with light. Even distant stars seemed to disappear behind the explosion. Inside the council chamber, several alien leaders shielded their eyes from the brightness of the holographic display. When the light slowly faded, the creature was still there, but its body had changed. Large sections of the dark mass had been burned away. The creature let out a strange vibration, not a sound exactly, more like a deep wave of energy that spread through space. Several nearby asteroids shattered instantly. Even some human ships struggled to maintain their positions, but the creature had been damaged. The council members began to understand something important. This battle was not hopeless. The creature could be hurt. The human admiral watched quietly. "For thousands of years," he said, "we studied these beings. We learned their weaknesses. Every weapon we built was designed specifically to fight them. On the battlefield, human fleets continued their attack. More stellar lances fired. Gravity suppression fields tightened. Energy barriers formed around the fleet to block the creature's shockwaves. Slowly, piece by piece, the enormous creature was being pushed back toward the containment ring. But then, something unexpected happened. The creature suddenly stopped resisting. For a moment, it remained completely still. Then its massive body began to expand. Dark energy surged outward from its core. The human fleet commander immediately recognized the danger. All ships retreat, but it was too late. The creature released a massive pulse of energy. The shockwave blasted through the surrounding space. Several human warships were thrown thousands of kilometers away. Energy shields across the fleet flickered violently. Inside the council chamber, alarm spread among the alien leaders. Even the human admiral looked more serious now. One council member asked in fear, "Can your fleet stop it?" The admiral watched the battlefield carefully. Then he answered in a calm voice, "Yes, but now we must use something far more dangerous." He looked directly at the council. "A weapon humanity has never used before." Outside the containment ring, the creature continued expanding its dark energy field. Human fleets slowly regrouped around it. And deep inside the command ship of the fleet, a new weapon system was being activated, one that had been locked behind humanity's strongest restraints for thousands of years. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, the tension had become unbearable. Every alien leader watched the battlefield transmission in silence. Human warships were slowly regrouping after the massive energy shockwave. Several ships had been pushed far away from the containment ring. Some of the smaller vessels had been damaged, but none of them had been destroyed. Even after the violent explosion of dark energy, the human fleet still held its formation. The creature, however, had grown even larger. Its dark body continued expanding outward, like a storm made of living shadows. Long tendrils of energy stretched across space. Each movement created waves that twisted gravity and light around it. Nearby stars looked distorted, as if reality itself was bending. Inside the command ship of the human fleet, officers were working quickly. The fleet commander stood quietly in the center of the bridge. He looked at the massive creature on the display screen. For thousands of years, human scientists had studied these ancient beings. They had given them a simple name, the Devourers, because wherever these creatures appeared, entire star systems disappeared soon after. Planets were stripped apart, stars slowly lost their energy, civilizations vanished without leaving ruins behind. Long ago, an unknown ancient species had managed to capture several of them and build the giant containment rings, but that species had eventually disappeared. Human explorers had discovered the rings thousands of years later, and when humanity realized what was trapped inside them, they made a decision. They would guard them forever. The fleet commander looked toward his officers. Status of the Devourer. One officer answered immediately. Energy levels increasing rapidly. It is trying to fully escape the containment ring. Another officer spoke. Gravity suppression fields are weakening. The commander nodded slowly. He had hoped the stellar lance weapons would be enough, but the Devourer was stronger than expected. That meant humanity would have to use something else, something they had never used before. He turned toward the weapons officer. Prepare the horizon breaker. The bridge became very quiet. Several officers exchanged nervous looks. The horizon breaker was not just another weapon. It was humanity's final solution, a weapon created only for one purpose, to destroy something that could not normally be destroyed. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, alien leaders heard the name through the open communication channel. One council scientist immediately reacted. Horizon breaker. That sounds like a gravitational weapon. The human admiral standing before the council nodded. It is. The scientist looked shocked. You built a weapon that can break gravitational horizons? Yes, the admiral replied calmly, but we locked it away behind our strongest restraints. He looked back at the battlefield display. Until now. Far out in deep space, the human command ship began activating the weapon system. The ship slowly moved forward, closer to the massive Devourer. Panels along its outer hull began opening. Inside those panels were enormous circular machines. Each one surrounded a small core of glowing energy. But the energy was not bright like a normal reactor. It looked dark, almost like a tiny artificial black hole. The weapons officer reported calmly. Horizon breaker charging. Around the battlefield, the rest of the human fleet moved into a protective formation around the command ship. Energy shields expanded outward. They knew what was about to happen. The Devourer seemed to sense the growing energy. Its dark tendrils began moving faster. The creature pushed harder against the gravity suppression fields. Huge waves of dark energy slammed into the human fleet. Several ships struggled to hold their positions, but the formation remained strong. The fleet commander spoke again. Charge level, 90%. The Devourer suddenly released another massive energy pulse. The containment ring behind it cracked under the pressure. Pieces of the ancient structure began drifting away into space. The creature was almost fully free. If it escaped, it could travel anywhere in the galaxy. Entire civilizations could disappear before anyone even understood what was happening. The weapons officer spoke again. Horizon breaker ready. The commander took a slow breath. This weapon had never been used before, not once in human history, because its power was extremely dangerous. But now there was no other choice. Fire. A deep vibration spread through the command ship. As the weapon activated, a thin beam of strange dark light shot forward. At first, it did not look powerful, but the moment the beam touched the Devourer, something incredible happened. Space itself began to bend. The creature's enormous body suddenly started collapsing inward. Its dark energy twisted violently as gravity around it increased beyond anything natural. The Devourer struggled to escape, but the Horizon Breaker was not attacking the creature directly. It was attacking the space around it, creating a temporary gravitational horizon. like a growing black hole. The Devourer was slowly being crushed by the weight of its own existence. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, alien leaders watched in stunned silence. They were witnessing something the galaxy had never seen before. Humanity was not simply fighting the Devourer. Humanity was bending the laws of physics to destroy it. And in that moment, the Council finally understood the true meaning of human restraint. Humanity had never been weak. Humanity had simply chosen not to use its full power, until the day the galaxy forced them to. For several long minutes, the battlefield remained filled with silence. The dark storm that had once been the Devourer slowly collapsed inward. The power of the Horizon Breaker continued bending space around the creature. Gravity itself had become a prison. The Devourer struggled one last time. Huge waves of dark energy pushed against the artificial horizon, but the pressure only increased. Human warships held their positions in perfect formation. No one celebrated. No one spoke. Every officer on every human ship watched the same thing. They had seen this before, thousands of years ago, and they knew how dangerous even the final moments could be. The Devourer suddenly twisted violently as the gravitational horizon tightened. Its enormous body began folding into itself. Dark tendrils disappeared into the collapsing center. Then, in one final burst of energy, the creature vanished completely. Space slowly returned to normal. The containment ring, already damaged from the earlier battle, drifted in pieces through the silent battlefield. The Devourer was gone, destroyed by forces powerful enough to bend the laws of physics. Inside the human command ship, the weapons officer finally spoke. Target eliminated. The fleet commander closed his eyes for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. Deactivate the Horizon Breaker. Across the fleet, the massive weapon systems powered down. The glowing artificial horizon faded away. Stars returned to their normal brightness. For the first time since the battle began, the battlefield was quiet. Back inside the Galactic Council chamber, the alien leaders were still staring at the holographic display. They had just witnessed something none of their civilizations had ever imagined. Humanity had defeated a creature capable of destroying entire star systems, and they had done it using technology so powerful that it frightened even the council scientists. One alien representative finally spoke. His voice was quiet. How long have humans been doing this? The human admiral standing before the council answered calmly. For over 3,000 years. Shock spread across the chamber. For 3,000 years, the admiral continued, human fleets have guarded the containment systems left behind by the ancient builders. We monitored the Devourers. We studied their behavior, and we prepared for the day one of them might escape. Another council member asked the question that now troubled everyone. Why didn't you tell the rest of the galaxy? The admiral paused for a moment. Then he answered honestly, because we believed the galaxy would react the wrong way. Some council members looked confused. The admiral continued, if the existence of the Devourers became public knowledge, many civilizations would try to destroy the containment rings. They would not understand the risks. They would not understand how dangerous those creatures truly are. He looked toward the battlefield transmission again. That is why humanity chose restraint. For centuries we built powerful weapons, but we refused to use them except for one purpose: to protect the galaxy from threats it did not even know existed. The chamber remained silent. Many alien leaders now felt something they had never expected: shame. For centuries they had mocked humanity. They had called humans emotional, young, unstable, weak. But the truth had been the opposite. While the galaxy argued about power and territory, humanity had quietly protected them all. The Dominion representative slowly stood up. His voice sounded heavy with regret. We attacked your research station. We provoked your people. We forced you to remove the restraints you warned us about. The human admiral simply nodded. Yes. The Dominion leader lowered his head. We did not understand. No, the admiral replied calmly. You did not. He looked around the council chamber. But now you do. Outside, in deep space, the human fleet began rebuilding the broken containment ring. New defensive systems were being placed around the damaged structure. Because humanity knew something important, there were still 11 other containment rings in the galaxy, and each of them still held something waiting in the darkness. Before ending the transmission, the human admiral gave the council one final message. For centuries, humanity warned the galaxy about our restraints. Today, you saw why those restraints existed. He paused for a moment, then he spoke the final words. Humanity does not fear war, but we do fear the power we are capable of using. The transmission ended. Inside the council chamber, no one laughed at humanity anymore. because now the galaxy understood the truth. Humanity had never been weak. Humanity had simply chosen mercy. Until the day the galaxy forced them to stop.